In a forgotten corner of the countryside, an old couple named Rashid and Sakina lived in a crumbling mud house at the edge of the village. Time had stolen their youth and fortune, leaving behind nothing but scars of humiliation. Once they owned green fields and were respected among the villagers, but after being deceived by the powerful village head, Malik, they lost everything. Malik took their land with forged papers and turned the villagers against them with his poisonous words. Now, they survived on odd jobs and charity, mocked by those they once helped. Rashid's hands trembled as he carried water from the well, while children laughed and called him, beggar. Sakina sold homemade bread in the market, enduring insults from women who taunted, "Your daughter abandoned you, didn't she?" Each word pierced her heart, but she said nothing, only looking toward the dusty road that led out of the village, whispering prayers under her breath. Every night, Sakina lit a small oil lamp and placed it by the window. "Maybe tonight she will come," she murmured. Rashid would sigh, pretending not to hear. To him, hope had died long ago. He believed their daughter, Aisha, had forgotten them after moving to the city. What neither of them knew was that Aisha had become one of the most powerful women in the country, the mysterious billionaire business tycoon known as Aisha R. Khan. Behind her wealth and fame, she carried a wound that never healed, the memory of her parents being humiliated and thrown out of their home. One day, while reviewing a new business expansion report, Aisha came across a familiar name, Malik, the same man who destroyed her family. Her heart froze, and memories flooded back, her father's trembling hands, her mother's tears, the villagers' cruel laughter. Fury consumed her, but it was not blind rage, it was sharp and controlled. "They broke my parents' dignity," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "Now I will rebuild it, and they will watch." Aisha instructed her team to begin purchasing all land and property in her old village under a hidden company name. At that very moment, in the same village, Rashid and Sakina were being evicted from the small hut they had built on a barren patch of land. As they sat on the ground, broken and hopeless, Aisha watched through a live security feed. A tear rolled down her cheek. "I'm coming home," she said softly, her voice filled with both love and vengeance. Aisha arrived at the outskirts of her old village just before dawn. She sat quietly in the backseat of her luxury car, wearing a simple shawl that hid her identity. The village hadn't changed much, narrow dirt paths, cracked walls, and the same old banyan tree where she once played as a child. But the people had grown colder. Everywhere she looked, she saw traces of the cruelty that had destroyed her parents' spirit. Her heart ached as she saw her father's old well, now covered in weeds, and the spot where her mother used to sell bread, now occupied by another vendor who gossiped and laughed about the mad old couple. She got out and walked slowly toward the small market. Her expensive shoes were soon covered in dust, but she didn't care. When she heard villagers mocking her parents, something inside her burned. "How quickly they forget kindness," she murmured under her breath. To them, she was just another stranger. No one recognized her, the billionaire they admired from afar, whose photo hung in magazines, was now walking among them in plain clothes. She visited the small plot of land where her parents' hut once stood. It was gone, reduced to ashes. Standing there, she clenched her fists, whispering, "You took everything from them, now, I'll take everything from you." Back in her city office, Aisha started her quiet mission. Through a hidden investment company, she bought Malik's farmland, his warehouses, and even the loan office he controlled. Her assistant was puzzled but followed her orders without question. Aisha didn't want revenge through violence, she wanted justice through power. She began a massive project in the village. A new school, a health clinic, and jobs for the poor. The villagers celebrated the mysterious investor who was transforming their lives. Malik, on the other hand, was furious and confused as his wealth vanished, his influence crumbling day by day. When Aisha finally revealed herself at the grand opening ceremony of the new community center, the crowd gasped. The same people who once mocked her parents now stared in disbelief. "I am the daughter of Rashid and Sakina," she declared, her voice calm but firm. "You called them beggars. You spat on their faces. But it was their honesty, not your greed, that built the strength in me." Silence filled the air. Even Malik couldn't speak. His power was gone, replaced by shame. Aisha looked around at the faces of those who once laughed, and simply said, "Now you will learn what true dignity looks like." The weeks after Aisha's revelation were filled with whispers throughout the village. No one dared to speak her name aloud, yet her presence was everywhere, in the newly built roads, the clean wells, and the smiles of the children who now went to school for free. The same people who once turned away from her parents now stood in long lines, hoping for her forgiveness, offering apologies that came too late. Aisha remained calm, even kind, but there was a quiet distance in her eyes, the kind born from years of heartbreak and loss. She visited her parents' graves at the edge of the village. Kneeling down, she laid fresh white lilies on the soil and whispered, "They finally know who you were." A tear slipped down her cheek, but her heart felt lighter. Her revenge was not destruction, it was transformation. She had turned the land of cruelty into a place of opportunity. Yet she knew she couldn't stay forever. Some wounds were too deep to heal in the same soil where they were made. Malik, once the most powerful man in the village, had lost everything. His lands were gone, his friends had abandoned him, and his pride had shattered. He came to see Aisha one morning, standing humbly outside her office. "I was blind," he admitted, his voice trembling. "I thought wealth made me great. But now I see what true greatness looks like." Aisha looked at him for a long moment, then said quietly, "My parents would have forgiven you. So I will too, but don't mistake my forgiveness for forgetfulness." Malik bowed his head and left, his steps heavy with regret. Before leaving the village, Aisha hosted one final gathering, not to boast, but to honor her parents. Children recited poems her mother once loved, and elders told stories about kindness and pride. When the sun set, she stood before everyone and said, "Never measure a person by their clothes or their home. Measure them by their heart." Her words echoed softly through the crowd, settling into every soul that had once judged her family. That night, as Aisha's car drove away from the village, she looked back one last time. The lights of the new school glowed in the distance, a beacon of everything her parents had taught her: resilience, dignity, and love. She smiled faintly through her tears, whispering, "We finally came home."